All right, everybody, welcome to the Real Tea Radio Show. This is episode 9. Today I have a good buddy of mine, Mr. Nathan Oxman. He is a car-loving, sauna-sitting, whiskey-sipping loan officer with the Bank of England, and I'm super excited to have him on. Nathan, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are, what you do, what you like doing for fun. Give us a little 411.
Yeah, no, of course. Thank you for having me too. I appreciate it, Rich. I'm a loan officer here in Denver, Colorado. I've been doing it for a little over 3 years now. Rich and I met in the sauna. That's why the sauna part was added. And we just realized we knew a lot of mutual people in the real estate space and thought this would be a fun conversation.
Yes, and speaking of the gym, man, I've been going to Club Greenwood 3 years now. How long you been going there for?
Since high school.
Since high school, dude. You're kidding me. I
Yeah.
love that gym, man.
Yeah, it's great. My parents, they had a membership at Lifetime Fitness, and when it first opened, it was really awesome. But then I went in the sauna or the steam room, and I was like, it smells like piss in here. I know Greenwood's a lot more expensive, and I know my parents won't pay for it, but maybe I should do that. So that's why I started going there.
You know, is it really that much more expensive though? I don't know how much Lifetime is, but
Now it's not. I think now it's like pretty similar, but at the time I want to say Lifetime was like, my parents were looped in on a deal where it was like $10 a month per person because they started back in like 2008. But now I think it's pretty similar. So
got it. Yeah, Club Greenwood. If you guys haven't, if you guys live in the area, in the Tech Center area, Greenwood Village, Centennial, it's a phenomenal gym. I highly recommend checking that place out. But so Nathan, you do loans, man. You're in the mortgage business with the Bank of England.
Yep.
I believe you were previously at Cross Country Mortgage.
Right.
What made you get into mortgages, man? And you're a young cat, dude. You're 22, man. You are the top 3 youngest people we've had on the show, which I love, man, because you're truly an inspiration to, dudes your age and people, like me that are a little older that I'm impressed. I'm awestruck. How did you get into the business? What made you get into it? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I went to Cherry Creek High School, so here in Colorado, and I applied to, I think, like 4 different colleges. 3 of them denied me. KU accepted me. So I thought, this is where I'm going. It's really my only option. My freshman year was 2019. It's 2019 to 2020, so the year of COVID. So end of that school year, we got sent home. And then that summer, I was just kind of hanging out, doing nothing. And my mom said she had a client whose husband was a, big wig at some mortgage company and that I should go talk to him. I thought I'll go talk to him, but I want to go to CU. So the plan was to transfer from KU to CU. Okay. And I thought, I'm not interested. My uncle's been in the business, and I kind of looked at him. He's done well financially, but I was like, I don't know if that's what I'd want to do at all. So I show up, and I was trying to fail the interview so I wouldn't get hired, so I could go to CEO. I was giving 1-word answers, wasn't really talkative, was not being myself. I was just trying to fail the interview. And Gavin Ekstrom, who was my boss at Cross Country, and I still stay in contact with him, he was saying, like, I got to give me something to work with. Like, what are your interests? And I said, well, I like cars. He said, well, I just ordered an F8 Ferrari. Is that a cool car? And I said, yeah, that's pretty cool. And so he kind of looped me in with that. And that's when I started. I started like maybe a month later.
Got it. So he baited you in with the wheels, huh?
Yep, exactly.
The fact that he would ask you, is that a cool car, man? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's got a... I love Gavin, but he's got a side of him that I also love about him, is that certain sense of arrogance, which I find kind of funny.
Yeah, and in our industry, man, both on the realtor broker side and on the loan side, you find it, and you come across it all the time.
Yeah, but I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, it's funny hearing him say some of the stuff he says.
Absolutely, Absolutely. And for the people that, don't know him, it might seem like it's coming off like that, but until you meet the guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different. So I get that. Cool, man. So you've been in it, what, 3 years,
3
4 years?
3 years going on.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And you've created a pretty good, successful business for yourself. So props on that.
Thank you.
Um, do you enjoy doing it?
I love it. Yeah, no, I truly think that's kind of, at least at my age, why I've done what I've done is just because I truly do love it. When I got in this business, that there was a lot of difficulties with, if someone's a home or looking to purchase a home and they're in their 50s, why are they going to go with the 19-year-old? I was 19 when I got in the business, and so there was the learning of how do I communicate with people that are much older than me, that could be my parents, and have
Yes.
them actually trust me and believe in what I have to say about the mortgage process. I also didn't know what taxes were, so I had to figure out that side of the loan business. So like just the basics, because I never had any. I didn't even have credit at that time, and then I also had to learn the mortgage business itself. So it was those three things that made it really challenging. But after that, it was once I kind of figured it out, at least from a baseline perspective, I realized this job was made for me. I feel like I don't work. I get to hang out with friends that, it just doesn't seem like work. And when people get in this business and they're thinking, oh, I've got to meet with this agent or this referral partner, this sucks. Maybe it's not for you, but I've always looked at it as like, I get to see this person today, even this, right? Like there's a part of it that's kind of a work aspect, not really, but still it's something to look forward to. I'm doing this in my office right now.
We are blessed to do
Yeah.
what we do, man. And every time, and I don't know, I think, have you ever worked like a 9 to 5?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I never full time. It was in high school. I probably worked more hours in high school than I do now. I was working the Mile High Flea Market at the kettle corn stand, and then I was working at Waterway Car Wash. And I was working Waterway during the week while in school, and then doing the flea market on the weekends, which was 12 hours Saturday, Sunday. And so
Ah,
I
man, I
enjoyed
wouldn't.
it though. I enjoy even that. I
Yeah, no.
never got in this business to work for myself or anything like that. It was more just I saw it as, oh, you don't need a college education, and this guy has a Ferrari. Maybe I'll try it out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and man, I wouldn't even consider those nine. Like what I mean 9 to 5 is like cubicle corporate stuff.
yeah,
And Jesus, you are lucky to never experience that, because I can tell you right now you wouldn't be made for that. And the only
yeah,
I ask that because when I'm on my way to lunch with a client or you or whoever, in the middle of the day, and I'm out on the highway at 12:30, and
hmm
I'm not like handcuffed to my desk in a cubicle,
hmm
that is just the ultimate freedom to me, and it doesn't feel like work, like you said. Cool. So yeah, the reason that I asked you, if you like it, number one, is because you had mentioned that you knew what you wanted to do and what you didn't want to do, which is awesome, especially at that age, right? Some of us
hmm
like take, into our 30s, whatever, like late 20s to figure that out. So that's awesome, man. And you're one of the few at that age that can say you knew what you wanted to do.
hmm
Number two, I want to unpack on this because I witnessed this and experienced this when I got into real estate as well. So I got in when I was 25, so still a younger person.
yeah,
And you come across clients that are literally as old as your parents or older, and they're looking down at you like, what is this kid going to tell me about selling the biggest asset that I have in my portfolio that I don't already know?
yeah.
So I know how I got through that, but how did you overcome that challenge of approaching older clients being 19?
hmm I think at the beginning it was more of a maybe I went for younger clients, more first time home buyer, and I noticed they didn't have trust either, but it was a little bit easier to I guess show that I'm of some value if they've never purchased a home before. And it's kind of interesting. Something that I've noticed recently is it's kind of switched. I'm much better with my older clientele, and it's easier to sell my products to them and that show that I have an understanding versus the first time home buyers, the ones that are a lot younger, they kind of look at me and they think he's young and they don't understand what I'm saying, maybe, right? Like maybe they haven't purchased a home before. So they don't know if they should or shouldn't trust me versus the people who've bought in the past. They can hear what I'm saying and say, all right, this kid knows what he's talking about. I do trust him. So it's
Sure.
an interesting switch, and that I've really just noticed that in the past like couple of months, where a little bit more difficult to sell to someone that's my age versus 50, 60, 70.
Absolutely. No, that's interesting that you say that. And it's interesting how our businesses evolve over the years, and who our true target market is and who we appeal to. So I love that. Any future insights, man, on on the business in general? Man, this last year, I'm sure you guys have gotten shaken up with the massive, rise in interest rates. Refis dropped off a cliff. Any future insights on just business or, processes, anything that you see in your industry that'll really shake things up in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I think with elections next year, I think that's when we'll probably start to see rates go down. But really, the thing that I'm curious about is how far do they go down? Because that's gonna change our business big time wherever it goes. The amount of business, because I think if we go down to the fives, it's going to be a lot different than if we go down to low sevens, right? Just because it makes opportunities not as much purchasing or anything like that, but more in the sense of people refinancing to pull cash out to pay off credit card debt, because I see that as something that's going to be a big issue here soon. Um, it, when you're looking at it more in the sense of 5 to 10 years, it's hard to say, and I don't know for sure, but I could see there being a chance that my position isn't even a thing anymore. When you're looking at AI, crypto, I've heard about the crypto contracts. To me, that seems like the idea of basically what we as loan officers do.
It's interesting you say that. So I had another lender on. He was actually, I think, the first episode, and we were talking about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I got started, God, 8 years ago now. The words and the mindset of like, oh, we're not going to be needed, in 10 years or whatever because of technology, because of all of these innovations. I struggle with that, man, and I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. It's because buying real estate is such a complex process,
Mm-hmm.
and not only in the complexity sense of the transaction, but also very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I deal with this more on my end of things, versus you're more numbers and situational base and processing all of those issues. But I really do feel like there's always going to be a need for that human element within the transaction, whether it be a realtor or a mortgage broker,
Mm-hmm.
just because it is so emotional and complex, and there's so many different ways that it can go.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, there's disruptors. I mean, look at Zillow, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's impacting how you guys generate leads and all of that. But that's been a huge disruption in the in the real estate broker side of things. Um, and I guess it really just depends on how you structure your business. But like, how do you grab leads? Like as a as a lender, man, do you primarily focus on real estate agents? I'm assuming that's how you do it, right?
Yeah, agent, really two things. So, well, one main thing is mostly Instagram. I use Instagram to be in front of agents and then also, like show my content, but also see what they're up to. And for me, I'm terrible with names. So, like, even when I first met you, the first 10 times, what's your name again? I'm sorry, I'll remember it. And you probably realized right after I got your Instagram, yeah, I remember it because I can put the name to the face. So that's really my tactic for remembering names, but also seeing what you're up to. I had no clue you were a car guy till I saw your Instagram, right? And then so I hit on that, and then there's people that aren't in our industry that just follow me that might hit me up asking for help with a mortgage. So that really starts there. And then there's those two different categories, like the buyers and then the agents who hopefully one day will send buyers.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Let's kind of get away from the business stuff, man,
Okay.
because it can get a little boring. I just wanted
Yeah.
to give people some context of like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what you're doing. But um, dude, being 22 years old, being as focused and as consistent and diligent as you are in your business, and I'm sure your personal life as well. I mean, I do see you at the gym pretty consistently, so I know you're on top of that. Um, how do you How do you maintain that focus and that discipline? Are there any habits that you consistently do that are like lifesavers for you? I mean, do you like wake up every morning and, walk outside and take a deep breath of fresh air? What habits, what books do you read? Like
Yeah.
what keeps you on track?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people struggle with that, man.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I always think of myself as not staying on track. I always feel like, oh, I probably should have gone to the gym this morning, but I didn't. I wouldn't say that my life or how it's set up is at all perfect in any means. And I think it's just keeping a balance, knowing when, all right, you've had a little bit too much party, you need to get focused again. And then also not, for me, I feel like at my age, I got to have a little bit of fun because if I don't, I'm gonna go crazy when I'm 40 or something. I don't know. Um, I've seen a lot of guys, coworkers, people that I've met in the business that when they were young, they were really focused and that's all. And then now they're in their 40s, 50s, and it's like they're
They're,
acting younger than me.
they're
They're
wilding out.
they're out every single night doing something dumb. So I don't want that. I just believe in balance and not getting too far off track either way.
I love that, man. I think that's a very simple approach to
Yeah.
things, and you can get really overwhelmed with habits and disciplines and all of that. I know I personally do, so I like to keep it simple, just like that
Yeah.
as well. You reading any books right now? Are you a big reader, Audible guy?
Yeah, I not as much as I was, but one book that I read that I really enjoyed was Principles by Ray Dalio. It's really interesting. Do you know who that is?
I do, and I'm
Yeah.
about 50 pages out from finishing The Changing World Order by him. Have you
Oh
started
yeah.
that one?
No, I've not.
Oh
No.
my God, man. You need to read that one because it's
Yeah.
so to the time, to the T.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
That's like where it changes every 100 years or whatever, right?
yeah, so basically in a nutshell, he goes back, I want to say about 500 years, and does a historical analysis about all of the world's economies, governments, leadership, and basically boils it down to there's cycles and there's principles to these cycles,
Hmm.
and they literally repeat themselves like clockwork
Yeah.
every, you have the short term ones, 7 to 10 years, and then you have the mega super cycles every 50 to 100 years. And basically, what he's boiling it down to is right now we're in a mega cycle or a super cycle. I don't know exactly what he calls it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's a 50 to 100-year cycle. And so what's happening is, the U.S. has been the dominant world power for the last, since World War II. So coming up on, 75, 100 years.
Mhm.
And now you have challenging other world powers such as China, um, Russia. I mean, they're not exactly an economic superpower, I would say, but militarily speaking, sure, you can equate them. But in a nutshell, yeah, dude, that book is amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
He's his at least Principles. I noticed it was very dry. Like there's probably a lot of people that wouldn't like it, but I mean, just his thought process, how he thinks about things, how simple it is, and what I really noticed about him is he's really good at keeping his ego out of things. He it's someone that I think is just like someone that if you followed what he does, it's a good way of life. Not taking things too seriously, having passions outside of what you do, um, not thinking that you're the best just because you're the top guy somewhere, and being able to learn from people even if they're day one at the job. That's I took a lot from that where even though him and I do very different things, and I didn't take it as much from a business approach, but just in life in general.
He's an extremely humble human being,
Yeah,
and at that, he's extremely wealthy as well.
yeah,
Um, so it seems like you draw inspiration from him,
yeah,
which I love, man, because I think out of the many, many, many people that you can draw inspiration from in today's world, he's one of the top dogs.
yeah.
I love him. I haven't read that Principles book. Is it? And the other the other one is pretty dry too.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a phenomenal outlook on where we're at and where he thinks we're headed based upon historical data points.
Yeah,
And it's just it's amazing. It gave me a lot of peace, I think, of actually knowing. COVID hit, and I mean, dude, you got into the now that I think of it, you got into the business what, like 2019, 2020?
yeah. 2020.
So literally like the COVID year, man.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm in this business. I think if I was a freshman in college right now, no mortgage company would be looking to hire me, even if I wanted to, just because business isn't the same as it was at that time.
Very true.
So
Very true.
I'm thankful for COVID in that sense.
Yes, no, COVID on like as bad as it is to say, and I have other buddies that, say the same thing, like COVID was very good for business, for
Hmm.
you, for me.
Hmm.
Um and on the flip side, there's always somebody that it wasn't so good for,
Yeah.
restaurant owners, small business owners and all of that. But um killer, man. So I asked this question to my guests. Usually my
Mhm.
guests are a little bit older, so I ask them if they were to go back in time. So
Yeah.
I'm going to flip it on you and I'm going to say, where do you see yourself in 10 years? So you'll be 32. That's how old I am.
Hmm.
Where do you see yourself? Where is your vision, man? Like where's your manifestation of where you're going to be at in 10 years?
In what sense?
Whatever sense you want it to be, brother. Personal,
Yeah.
professional. I mean, what kind of life are you living in 10 years?
Hmm.
As specific and as vivid as you can get.
Yeah. Hopefully, I haven't screwed up too much by that point. I'm always worried about that, but probably thinking about wife, kids, that kind of stuff. At least thinking about it if it hadn't already happened at that point. Um, you know, I I'd want to be at the edge of not having to work anymore. But really, like for me, I'm not worried about not working. I'll work till the day I die. That's what brings me joy. So as long as I'm doing something, I'll be happy. If I am financially kind of set and can still work at that point, I'd be very happy. So that's all I really. I mean, I think times are changing a lot. Who knows? I don't really hold myself in a box for that time frame because who knows? Who knows? I don't want to say I want to be a branch manager that has X amount of LOs because maybe I don't want to be in this business at that point. Might not be a good place to be. So I
Sure.
always just keep the door open, take it day by day and see what happens.
I love that, man. And it's such a it was a loaded question. It's hard to
Yeah.
predict. You're
Yeah.
like, yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah.
It was a loaded question. The reason I asked, you talk to, and you read about successful people, and they always say it's good to have, goals and clear visions, right?
Hmm.
There's that saying, if you plan to fail, you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I mean, there's, a whole book of those one-liners, but
Yeah.
that's interesting to hear, where you'd want to be in the next decade. Um, being is, because you are a young dog, man. So that's very cool, and I think you're on the path to that. Are you? Do you got a girlfriend? You got a gal?
No.
No. Oh man. Here
Just
you
I
go.
feel like if I can just focus at most of everything on work right now and get that taken care of, the rest will take care of itself with time. It's not my main focus right now.
As it shouldn't, as it should be, man.
Yeah,
I think you're on the right track with that. It's so easy to get distracted, and especially at your age, man. I respect the hell out of you for what you're doing at your age. Again, like when I was 22, man, the last thing that I was thinking about was work, making money, my future, any of that, man. You're so short sighted at that age.
yeah.
For most of us, not you. Point being. Um, Cool, man. Well, we're kind of getting to the end here. I want to get your thoughts on cars, man. So you like
Cars.
cars. Let's start with a fun one.
Yeah.
If I gave you $500,000, what are you buying?
Am I in Colorado year round? Have to drive just one car, or
That's a good question. Let's boil it down to you have your daily. This is like either a trophy car for you, a weekend car for you, a show car for you.
okay?
You have a daily. So this is like you just pop, a $4 million deal. You got a fat check for,
Hmm.
it'd be stupid to spend 500K out of your 4 million, but let's just call it 100 million. You get $100 million. You got 500K to splurge on a car. What are you doing, man? Or more. I mean, talk to me.
Well, five. If it was 500,000,
Give or take a couple hundred.
all right.
Let's
I
not box ourselves in here, Nate.
I would probably do a. Really got to think about this. Probably like a 488 Pista
Okay.
would be my car.
I love that. I personally like the 458s a little bit better just because they were naturally aspirated V8s. I think the
Yeah,
488s were they were I don't think they were a hybrid, but was it a turbo V8?
I
Turbo
think
8?
the Turbo V8. I don't
Yep.
think I'd have enough money for the 458 Speciale. So
I think you could get one for 5, dude. I don't
the
think they're that much.
the convertibles that appear to, I think those are like in the 7-800s now, which is crazy,
Ridiculous. Well,
crazy.
we're seeing the used car market and just the car market in general kind of compress as we're
Yeah.
seeing houses and all of that stuff as well. And as credit card debt surpasses $1 trillion. Oh man.
How about you?
That's cool,
What would
man.
you at 500,000?
If I had 500K, man, the new SF90, I think you
You
can
don't have
get
enough
that.
money.
Well, it's around like what, 600?
Yeah, I think they're like 6 or 7.
If you can get an allocation from the manufacturer, that's one thing. Breaching that market and actually getting allocations for these cars has become
Yeah,
a true bear, man. Like you see what's happening in the Porsche market.
yeah,
The wait list for a GT3 is like 4 or 5 years. People are getting them at MSRP for 260 and flipping them for 400 or 500. I
yeah.
don't think that's gonna last. It's just the
I don't know. Yeah, it's
you
hard to say.
know Yeah, so I'm a little short on the SF90. I don't know, man. I love the Porsches.
The new GT3 RS is sweet.
It is sweet.
Yeah,
Have you ever driven one?
I have. Yeah,
I have not,
they're fun
and so
cars.
I would definitely have to drive one first before I committed that much money. Um, but I hear they're pretty big inside too, which is like unfortunately a deciding factor for me as well, just because I'm tall as hell.
Yeah,
And like all the like I love the Lamborghini Huracans, the naturally aspirated 10 cylinders, gated
yeah.
manuals. I mean, that's just a dream to me. I can't fit in the convertible, man. My head is literally above the windshield. The coupes are a little bit more spacious,
Uh-huh.
so they work a little bit better. I my went to a car show a couple weeks ago, and this dude had a STO,
Yep.
all black Huracan. It was awesome, and he was letting everybody sit in it and whatnot. So I fit in that sucker.
Yeah.
So I could fit in the coupe, but the convertible, no. So unfortunately, that's something that I always have to keep in the back of my mind is if I'm actually
Yeah.
going to fit in these fucking things.
Well, if you fit in that, you could probably fit in most, because that's one of the smaller cabins. I feel like I have a buddy who has a STO, and he took me for a ride in it, and I was like, this thing, it's small. I think the one that's probably the worst out of any car is like Ford GT.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that for you.
No.
Probably not even me.
If I were to buy that car, man, I would just buy it just to look at it.
Yeah, it's a good looking car.
You know, it's a good looking car. It's a nice piece of artwork, and I definitely park that on like one of those turntable,
Yeah.
displays to put up into my house. Probably put it in the kitchen if I had my way, and my wife would kill me for it. But yeah, man, cool. So I think we'll wrap it up here. Nate, it was awesome talking to you, man. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a true pleasure talking to you, learning a little bit more about you, because again, our friendship isn't a decade long just yet. So thank you again for coming on. Is there anything that you'd like to leave with the people, dudes your age or older or whatever, that are thinking about getting into the business, or any words of advice, wisdom?
Well, thank you for having me, but words of advice, I don't know. I'm probably too young to be given any right now.
Man, you humble son of a bitch. I love you, man. Thanks again, Nate, for coming on. It was a true pleasure. We'll have you on again. And that's it, folks. We'll catch you guys on the next one. And that's a wrap on another episode of the Real Tea Radio Show. Thank you for tuning in and indulging in these honest and thought-provoking conversations. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment on your favorite platform. Remember, the Real Tea keeps flowing on our favorite social media channels, so connect with us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Until next time, keep steeping in truth, growing with purpose, and embracing the authentic flavors of life. This is Rich signing off. Stay brewed.